Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrusham Tattvamasyadhilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Satpadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
We welcome all the Sri Mahants, Kotharis, Tanedas, devotees, disciples, visitors, viewers, Samajis, Satsangis, Balasanths for this Vaakyaartha Sadhas conducted by the Balasanths of Nithyananda Gurukul. Today's topic for the Vaakyaartha Sadhas is hard power and soft power.
I have a question. How does soft power brings passion, compassion, excitement?
Before that, what do you understand as passion?
Which we enjoy and do it.
So, according to you, if it is enjoyment and doing, so inspiration, soft power, what I understand is as inspiration. So, inspiration brings you joy and enjoyment. So, it brings passion to you.
Like, can you please explain what is passion, compassion and excitement? Like how it is related to soft power in the context of soft power?
What I understand as passion itself is what he told earlier, like something what you enjoy and do. That's the way how even I understand passion as. So inspiration, soft power is what I understand as inspiration. So inspiration obviously leads you to passion.
How is soft power related to inspiration?
What I understand as soft power is it is always from what you want to live life as. So it is obviously it is from inspiration only. Hard power is where you are forced to live your life. Like for example, in Law and Order, you do not have your own context of why you do not do something. But in soft power, you will always do it with the context.
But where is it in hard power? You are forced to do something. And how can that be your life if you are forced to do something?
What I feel is hard power does in a way force you because they use fear and greed. So out of fear, you'll do anything just to save yourself. That's what I feel.
Okay, see, I have a question. So for the past few days, we were talking about the same topic, and then in one of the days we came up with an instance where for few of us we have had hard power for like coming here or anything, but then later on we like have been happy here. So is that still hard power or is it soft power? Because we are happy after that.
I feel it's hard power because at that point of time, like, okay, take my own example. To come here, I was, when I came here, hard power was used on me. And at that point of time, I was suffering and I was put into like, not really fear and greed, but I was kind of forced to do it. So at that point, it made me suffer. So I think it's hard power.
But just only you told that hard power is not force, it is fear and greed. And now you are telling I was made to do it without any fear and greed. It is hard power. Then can you explain clearly?
In the previous point, I told that it is force because fear and greed are used. So when fear is put on you, you kind of do it you don't have a choice. You just do it because you're scared.
Can you explain what forced means? Because just before you told, I was kind of forced but not was in fear or greed. But I was forced. What does that statement mean? How can you be forced without fear and greed?
Okay, rephrasing that. I was put into fear.
Then I have a doubt. If you are put into fear and greed, then how will you be happy at the end of the thing? Because you are put into fear and greed, you told you are forced. If you are forced, how will you be happy at the end of what you are doing?
What I feel is because after coming here, her cognition changed. She was out of the fear. Her cognition completely changed. What I feel is after she came here, her cognition changed. She was out of fear.
Could you clearly explain what is passion along with an example?
And how is it related to soft power?
For example, I enjoyed doing drawing, so that is my passion. This is the way how I understand passion to be. So that's my passion, and more I get each time I draw, I feel more inspired, and I expand on it more and more and more. So this is how I understand passion is, and it's related to soft. What I understand soft power itself is inspiration. This is the way how I understand soft power.
So how is this related to soft power?
Because what I understand is like soft power is inspiration. So like when she gets what she told us, it inspires her. So obviously inspiration is connected with soft power.
Can you explain how soft power is inspiration?
We understand the statement soft power brings inspiration and works out of inspiration. But how is it inspiration itself?
In hard power, you will live life through fear and greed. But whereas in soft power, whatever life you live, it is always out of inspiration. For example, in Lopamudra's example, she said that her passion is drawing. It was out of inspiration, not out of fear or greed.
Okay, so now I have a doubt. See, according to me, hard power is like, for example, now there's a rule that you cannot shouting at other kids. Just because it is a rule you are following is hard power, and you deciding that everyone is part of you, and by shouting at them, you are like you are hurting them. So if you decide not to shout at them from this context, it is soft power according to me. In this case, how is it getting me inspiration? How is software in this inspiration?
Can you tell the context of which you are shouting at the kids?
See, it is like this. Now there's a rule that you should not shout at the kids. Just because it's a rule, you are following it. That context is from hard power. You are deciding based upon hard power. There's one more thing. You are feeling everyone is part of me. So when I shout at them, they would be hurt. So I'm deciding not to shout at them from soft power. In this case, how is soft power inspiration?
See, not shouting at them from knowing that they're all part of you itself is inspiration, right? Like you avoid shouting at them because you think they're part of you. That itself is inspiration, right?
But where does it bring inspiration in us? It doesn't get us to do something like which I like. Where is inspiration in it? What does it inspire us to do?
Sundareshwara Maharaj, you told that it is not that you like, right? You told that. You told that you told her that it is not out of inspiration because it is not something you like it.
I'm not getting anything which you're telling. Can you put it in better way?
Repeat your statement. The statement before.
Okay, see, according to me, inspiration is self-drive. Now we'll ask what is self-drive. See, self-drive is something which makes you happy and which makes you excited to do that. So in this deciding that everyone is part of me, I should not shout at them. How is it anyway making me excited to do that? It is not exciting me to do that. So how is it inspiration?
And when you speak to somebody thinking that they are part of you, and that is soft power, what does it inspire you to do? Where is inspiration in that?
See, what I feel is this. When you shout at somebody, deep down you won't feel happy because you're hurting them. But when you speak to them, from the context that they're also part of you, you feel powerful and happy inside, and that inspires you to lead other people to that happiness and tell them. That's what I think.
But how is it exciting me in any way? Because I told inspiring me according to me something which I'm getting excited to do it. I'm not getting excited in doing that. So how is it inspiration for me?
If it is not out of excitement, then out of which context are you not shouting at them?
I clearly gave an example. I am deciding to not shout at them because they're all part of me, and by shouting at them, I would hurt them. So in that case, it is not bringing me any excitement.
What do you mean by excitement? Like, how do you understand excitement as?
Okay, according to me, excitement is something I'm really enthusiastic to do it. I'm feeling more and more like I am feeling more and more to do like to be clear. I am happy to do it.
So in the example you gave, when you speak to someone out of soft power and you feel powerful and happy inside, you feel excited, you feel like getting the same situation again and again. So you're excited to do it. According to what you told about excitement.
I still didn't get it. I didn't get it.
You told that according to you, excitement means you feel happy, right? That is what you told, right?
Yes.
So when you think that the other person is part of you and speak to them out of that completion, you feel that like you speak out of that context, right? So that makes you happy. Obviously, you're in powerful space.
Is inspiration and excitement same, or does inspiration bring excitement?
What I understand is inspiration brings us excitement because when we are inspired to do something, we feel more happy to do it. From a space of happiness, we are inspired to do something. We are excited to do something.
Okay, in that case, in my example, I am not inspired to do that. You told inspiration brings excitement. In my case, I am not inspired to do that.
See, once you know that when you are doing it out of that context, and once you know that people are complete and you are in that complete space, obviously you will want to be in that space, right? So it will inspire you to be in that space only, no? See, like when you know others are happy and you are also complete, you are also happy, then obviously you will want to be in that space only. So that will inspire you more and more to be in that space.
Can you explain what is cognition?
Cognition is the way you understand. Like first you take the perception and how you understand the process, how you understand something through your patterns. This is how I understand cognition is.
Okay, giving an example of what I understand is perceiving is putting the food in your mouth and tasting it, and cognition is the digestion which happens inside.
In the example you gave, what cognition happens when you digest the food? If you can give a practical day-to-day example.
See, like you see two people talking, okay? And then see, like once you see them, the moment you see, you may understand that they are fighting, or you may understand that they are singing. Like that is cognition. What after you seeing, you process it, and what you understand out of that is cognition.
Okay, so to put it, what she told, to put it in a better way, see, I'll take her example. When you see two people talking. She might understand that, oh, they might be fighting. She may understand that they must be playing. So cognition varies, and cognition is something, like, which you understand. You put it, first you see the people talking, then you put it inside, so it's processing. So you understand it from your patterns. Oh, they may be talking, they may be shouting, they may be fighting, and then you
So what is the difference between the perception and cognition?
Okay, see, what I understand is perception is just the input. Cognition is like you understanding and processing it. See, perception is just you see and the input, that's all. And cognition is like what you understand. I have a question. Does perception change from person to person?
I feel perception changes from person to person because if I tell you to see a watch, okay, you might see that watch as a, when you see the watch itself, you might see it as a bad watch. Somebody might see it as a nice watch. The way we see things itself differs. We don't see everything in the same way. Everybody doesn't look at the watch. Doesn't look the watch like a watch. A small baby might see it's like a plaything or something extraordinary. We might see it's just a watch. Somebody all might be thinking, what is going on in that thing? So the way we see things itself differs.
See, like how just now Moksha Maharaj told, the way we look at the watch is different, each one of us. Like, we may see, one person may see the color of the watch, the other person may see the shape of the watch and how the watch looks. It will be like different ways you take it into yourself. It is not that all of us are like perceiving the watch as it is. We have different perceptions, so we all perceive it in different ways. I may perceive it in different way, and other people may perceive it in different way. It's based on how I want to perceive and what I want from it.
What decides how do you perceive something? What is the thing which decides how are you going to perceive something?
Your patterns decide how you perceive other things.
So you mean pattern gets involved when you perceive something?
Your patterns are involved in what you perceive.
Because, like, even to put it in a little better way, I would tell that your cognition is what decides your perception. And how it is patterns are involved directly is because your cognition depends on your patterns, so your perception depends on your patterns.
But for a baby, suppose like Moksha Maharaj said, a baby is seeing the watch, the baby doesn't have any pattern. So are you saying the baby doesn't have any perception?
See, that is why he told, because the baby can't understand what a watch is, it just looks at it as it is. It is something which is in a round shape, it is in circle shape, and then it has like a rectangular strap. That is the belt of the watch. It just cognizes only that much because it can understand only that much. If you can understand more, for example, a person who can fix the watch, he may cognize it more. He may look deeper into it. You just understand that it is a watch. You may only go to the point where you can see the time. It's based on what you understand and how much you can cognize.
But that is perception. Perception is just input. It's just what you see. So I still didn't understand. Cognition is, you're saying, for different people might understand it in different ways. Like a watch person might like look at the details and all that. But that is cognition. Perception is just the input. So how? I didn't get it.
Taking the same example of the watch, like suppose I show a clock in front of you. You might look at the hands of the clock. We might look at the rim of the clock. Some person might look at the color of the clock. So the perception changes. But your cognition about it, like what you perceive as your cognition about a clock is something which shows time. So that is what we understand. But for a person who is pretty good with clocks and he understands the science behind the clock, he gets into his cognition that there is something which goes on just beyond showing the time. What is it which shows the time? So his cognition about it differs. So that way, each one's perception about the clock also differs. Each one's cognition about the clock also differs.
Then, is it because of our perception we cognize, or is it because of our cognition we perceive?
It's both. What your cognition is, that is what you perceive, and what you perceive is your cognition.
Because as your cognition changes, your perception gets more and more evolved. Like for example, in the clock, as the cognition becomes more and more like deeper. Like for example, for the person who like made the clock, their cognition about the watch will be more deeper. So the way they perceive the watch will be more deeper than the person who's just looking at the normal watch.
And because the whole thing, like suppose you don't have five senses, which is the perception, then you won't be having any cognition. Only because you have the perception, that leads to cognition, and because your cognition evolves itself, that leads to a better perception. So each one leads to each other. Both go hand in hand.
Then when does perception evolve into fact? Senses will be there for us. Then when does the perception evolve into fact?
See, what I feel is when your cognition happens without having any incompletions of what you see and what you do, that is when your perception and cognition raise to fact.
Is it only the perception which can change person to person, or even the fact can change person to person?
See, what I understand is the perception changes from the person to person, but the fact might not change from person to person, because fact is something which we all together agree as true. It is something which is true. That's what we all agree. Means what I feel is in that particular point, all our perceptions are same. That is why we agree it as true. Like, for example, fact, we have 2 eyes. All of us agree because we all can cognize only that much, means we have 2 eyes. So it becomes a fact. That's what I understand. When at a point where all of our perceptions are same, it becomes fact.
And to my understanding, perception is different for each one of us. Fact becomes same for each one of us. Truth again is different for each one of us. And the reality again becomes same for each one of us.
So I have a question. Is there a space where we ever stop perceiving? Like where we see something as it is without anyone?
There is such a space. That space is when you decide you will just see life as it is without you bringing in your incompletions or what you want or what you don't want to see. You just seeing everything as it is. When you decide to do that, when you decide to live your life or cognize from that way, you will come to such a space.
And to my understanding, till we are in this human body, we will continue to perceive things. But perceive is different, perception is different. In a way, like perceive something is just taking the input. Perceiving, just looking at things, tasting things, smelling things, just is what I understand as perceive. But perception, when it comes, like what you look at that point, like when you show a clock, perceive is just we are looking. But perception is at that point you're looking at the rim, or you're looking at the hands of the clock, or you're looking at the color of the clock. So perceive, till we are in human body, we continue to perceive everything. And based on that, our perception and cognition evolves itself. So that we perceive till the end of our this physical body.
Sundaresha, Madiba, I have a doubt. You told that truth changes for each one of us, right? It, like you told that the perception will change, then the fact will be same, then the truth will change, and the reality will be same. How is the truth changes for each one of us? Like for example, what Buddha told is, life is nothing, everything is just nothing, and that's what he told. But what Adi Shankara told is, he told life is everything. We all perceive everything, so life is everything. So this is how the truth changes between person to person.
And to give an example of it, it's like taking a pot which is made up of clay. Okay, so each one of us are different shapes made out of the clay, and the perception is we're all different, we all look so different, and all that. The fact, to my understanding, is that we're all clay. Okay, we're all clay is the fact, and the truth is we're all clay, but with different things added to it. Like each clay, we might be little strong, the other pot or some other thing might be little weak. So that is truth. And when it comes to reality, we are all made up of the same clay, and it is just that we think that we are made up of different things. Like if we are not baked properly, that part of the clay is not baked properly. But ultimately the reality is we are all the same clay, and that is what is the core of all of us. So in this example, if you see, the perception changes, the fact is same that we are all clay. The truth is at this point that we are different. Again it changes, the truth changes, each clay is different. When it comes to the reality, we are all the same clay picked up from the same place, which is consciousness and which is reality.
I have a doubt. You said when it comes to the fact, we are all clay. And same thing you said in the consciousness also. Then consciousness means in the reality also. Then both are same.
When I told we are all clay, we all understand that we are all different types of clay. But when it comes, like few might tell I am a soft clay, few might tell I am a hard clay. Where it comes, but we all understand we are clay, which is fact. When it comes to the truth, it becomes like you are soft clay, I am a hard clay. That clay can be easily shaped. This clay cannot be easily shaped. But when it comes to the reality, we are all the same clay is what we understand.
Sundaresh Maharaj, see, in that example which you gave itself, you told that in the reality we are all made up of the same clay. And in the truth you told that each one think that they are made out of like hard clay and soft clay. But like it cannot, how will you say, that the reality is that all of us are made up of the same clay, and the truth is that we are made up of like different hard clay and soft clay. Like, I didn't understand that. Like, the truth you told that each one of us are like, one is made out of hard clay, one is soft clay, and the reality is that all of us are the same clay. Like, I didn't understand this both.
See, in the level of truth, what I feel is, like for example, as you gave the example of clay, okay, now we feel that we are soft clay or we are hard clay. True, that is our way of feeling that we are hard or soft. But ultimately, what are we? We are clay. That is reality. We are clay. We are not something different. You are getting right. It might be soft or it might be hard. That might differ. But still we are clay. We might be hard clay or soft clay, but still we are clay. Ultimately, what are we? Clay. That is the reality.
So until truth is just our perception, which is like more and more and more, like it's just our perception. Even the truth is also like the way how we perceive.
To my understanding, when we come to the space of truth, we won't really call it as perception anymore. Because that space is called truth, we cannot tell it as perception. The perceive, that thing, and the cognition, when your cognition evolves itself, when it comes to the space of truth, then you have gone beyond your perception. Like you have gone to the next steps of your different perceptions. After perception, you have gone to fact, then you have gone to reality, and then you have gone to perception, fact, truth, and then to reality.
Having a question. Like when you see something, you told in perception level, like what we see itself is different, right? So where is the difference actually coming? So when we see it itself, we are seeing only that part, or our brain understands it like that, or what is that which understands it in a different way? Where does the thing which actually gets missed out, the whole information?
What I feel is when we see itself, it is different. See, the way you see something won't be the same way what others see. That's what I feel.
And I also understand that it is basically your cognition which is what makes you perceive what you see. So basically, when you are a child, if from the time itself, from the time you have come to the understanding about you, like I am a boy, I understand these are my fingers. So the moment you come to that understanding itself, whatever is fed to you, like from that time, if you are given the cognition that everything is you, then the way you perceive things itself will be different. But if a cognition is given, you are the body, don't fight with others, then that will lead you to a different cognition. If you are understood that you are the body and nothing else bothers, only you are important, you will only be happy, do whatever you want, then that brings a different level of cognition. So this cognition which is given to you when you are small is what I feel will make you understand what you perceive, which is what is directly responsible for your perception.
See, I have a question. If it is patterns which decide like what we should recognize or perceive.
If it is our patterns which decide what we should cognize or perceive, then like when I first met Swamiji, I had no idea about spiritual, like about masters or whatever. Then what is it that which decided my perception about Swamiji?
I feel that we need to ask you that question because you need to know what decided your perception, what is responsible for your perception. And the way you are brought up is what depends on your perception. So I feel you need to look in and contemplate on it.
I have a question. How to find out whether incidents from how to find out an incident whether it's from inspiration or fear or greed?
What I think is, if it excites you, if the incident excites you, it is a sort of inspiration. Or if you think, like, if it doesn't excite you, it's sort of fear or greed.
Adding to our point, if it expands you in the long term, I think it's inspiration. But if it shrinks you and puts you into incompletion, it's fear and greed.
Okay, see, I have a doubt. Now you told when it excites someone, it is inspiration, correct? So, taking me as an example, for me, if it is based on greed, I become happy to do the work. So, does that mean that also is inspiration? Isn't it from the context of greed?
To give an example, like suppose I get the greed, suppose they are putting a greed in me that if I finish these many worksheets within this much of time, then I can go out and have my break, I can do whatever I want. So at this point, I get inspired and I get excited and I quickly do it and then I go have. But that is out of greed. So greed at this point is bringing me inspiration.
What I feel is, at the end, you're happy, right?
So are you telling that fear and greed also can make you like happy? Because happiness is completion. So you're telling that fear and greed can make you complete.
So you mean to say even working from hard power can make you happy?
Which can inspire you, because greed is basically from hard power, and that at that point is exciting me, which is inspiration. So do you mean to say hard power also brings you inspiration?
Yes, I feel hard power does ultimately lead to inspiration, which is soft power.
Then how can you become insensitive to life if you continue following hard power? If at the end ultimately leads you to inspiration, then how can you become insensitive to life by making decisions out of hard power?
Swami told that only when you handle yourself with too much hard power, you become insensitive to life. At this incident, he doesn't use so much hard power. It is only little greed for to finish his worksheets.
Then I have a doubt. Swamiji also clearly explained hard power is administration, bureaucracy, law and order. Means you are following the rules just because they have put the law and order, and if you avoid to do this you might get punished, or if you do this you might get punished. How are you getting inspired? How are you becoming happy in that case? They are just forcing you to do in that case. How is it you are becoming happy by that?
And apart from forcing, it is also not from the space that your it is also not from the space that everything is Advaita, so finish this and then you can enrich the world. It is not from that context. If it comes from that context, it is soft power, and that is what brings inspiration. But at this point, hard power, which is greed, and it is still inspiring me to complete the worksheets. So how does hard power bring? And every time I use this, I am excited, I am inspired. So what's wrong with it? So how does it? Because ultimately it's again and again. You told that he is not using it completely, he is only using a little of it. If you take in my life, I almost do everything like that only when it comes to studies. What is wrong with it? And it is inspiring me all the time. So I use hard power, which inspires and excites me.
As you told itself, it is what the decision what you make, is it coming from completion? According to me, only the decisions you make from completion is going to expand you.
In hard power, you are made to take decision out of fear and greed. Correct? In that case, how is it making you happy? How is it putting you into completion? How is it inspiring you? See, what I meant with my question is, for example, now there's a rule that you cannot shout at the kids. Okay? If you shout at the kids, you won't get any special activities for 1 week. in that case, I am made to decide out of fear. So how is it making me complete? How is it making me happy? How is it inspiring me?
When did we tell that it's going to make you complete if you're going to work out of greed or fear?
Because in previous example, what Sundarshan has told, you told at that point at that point you are deciding out of completion.
I didn't tell that. I told you're making the decision out of incompletion. That was the decision was not made out of completion. That's what I told.
Okay, fine. So, getting back to the point, can you explain how? What is it? Is it real inspiration which comes out of greed? But it does excite me, and the purpose is solved, which is completing the worksheets, and I do understand whatever needs to be done from these worksheets, which ultimately leads me to writing the exams properly for enriching the world and getting good results. So, the inspiration which comes out of greed, what is that? If it is not inspiration. And also, fear and greed can never be completion to my understanding. But at this point, it brings me inspiration and excitement. So, what is this?
What I feel is, wait, first I want to know, why do you want to use the greed? Because when you do something, like if you think there's some, okay, now take you're passionate about being with turtles, there you don't use any greed. Where you're passionate about like gardening and all, so there you don't use any other greed, right? So here, do you use any greed when you're gardening? For that, do you use any greed?
No, I don't.
So I think it's in the studies there's something which is blocking you. So it's like I feel it might be maybe boredom or something like that. Is it something like that for you?
See, the question is, when the greed is put, okay, he is able to get excited and do the work. What is that excitement in this context?
See, ultimately, the purpose is we have to finish those worksheets, which is going to make us write the exams better, get good marks, and enrich the world. So that purpose is solved. So what is that? What is it called, or what is that inspiration which comes when you use greed? Because ultimately, even the purpose which is meant to be for studying is solved.
Okay, what I think is just because the purpose is solved doesn't mean when you're studying, are you doing it out of complete space, or are you doing it because, oh, I have to finish it and then get what I want to get from why I studied?
But to my understanding, the whole context of starting an action, basically if you do anything, it is for a certain purpose which is going to align yourself to your highest purpose of your life, to what you understand as life. So at this point, when I study, when I get good marks, we can show it to the society, which will then enrich more kids to get them to Gurukul. So the context is achieved, the purpose is achieved. So ultimately it is going to align me to the space, to what I understand as life. So it's aligning me back to that. So then what is that which is lacking in me that I should use greed or something like that? Or how is greed inspiring me? Even if it is inspiring, at the end, even if it is greed, at the end I am understanding and the purpose is achieved. So greed does bring inspiration in me, is what I understand.
what I understand is, like, though greed may get you inspiration at the beginning, there'll be one point of time where you'll realize that this greed will, like, it's not expansive anymore. And then what I feel is you'll surely shift your cognition.
See, I have a doubt now. He clearly told his purpose is achieved, correct? So, now what is the point in him cognizing or even thinking that greed is not useful for me anymore? Because his purpose is achieved just by having greed and getting inspired. So, what do you mean by you realize that greed is not good for me?
But when you put the greed into you, do you actually enjoy it?
Yes, very much. I'm very happy to immediately study and go continue on with what I like, with my gardening.
What I feel is, like, see, now in the example which you gave, the greed is like, it's on me so big. But at one point, the greed will just become more and more, and you won't be able to, okay, what I feel is the greed will just become too much, and it will stop you from aligning yourself to your concept of life.
See, now my doubt is, he told it is leading him to the purpose. Okay? Means he has to finish whatever worksheets he has to finish and he has to move on. So he is able to finish it and he is able to move on. How can this greed become big suddenly one day?
And also, because it is putting me back and aligning me to the purpose of my life, how can something bind you, which puts you back to the alignment of what you think as life?
See.
So with this, we come to the end of today's Vaakyaartha Sadhas. We will continue exploring into the deeper truths of what Swamiji speaks. With this, we will conclude with the Purna Mantra.
पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् सर्वं तद्गुरुपादुकार्पणमस्तु ॐ नित्यानन्दम्